Good day, everyone. First story of 2021, and it's one of my favorites. So, let me give you a little history about this guy. His name is William Somerset Maugham, W.S. Maugham, and he writes in a very different style. Now, he considered Guy de Maupassant to be his guru, his teacher, and I just dropped a literal bomb over here because Guy de Maupassant is hands down the best short story writer I have ever read. I will definitely be bringing Maupassant to this series very soon. But today we are going to talk about his spiritual pupil, Mom. So the story that I have for you tonight is the luncheon. It's a funny story. It's a comedy, and it's rather quirky because it's about food. It's about a grand lunch party, but it's got a very interesting twist at the very end of it. So this is the first story of 2021, and before I dive straight into it, let me just commemorate all of you on having survived 2020 and send out a short prayer to the people who are no longer with us thanks to COVID, an unfortunate incident in the lives of the world. But to the people who didn't make it this far, give yourself a pat on the back because god damn it, it wasn't easy. So, a very happy new year to all of you. Although there is a meme circulating on Facebook that perhaps we should wait and give this thing a 30-day trial period before wishing Happy New Year, in which case I will be compelled to wish you Happy New Year in February also. But the only thing I can do is be optimistic and tell stories. So let's just cut the crap and get straight into the action. So this story opens at a theater where our protagonist, who refers to himself in the first person, is saying that he's just managed to recognize an acquaintance of his. And this acquaintance has also recognized him, but uh, it's weird because they last met 20 years ago. And what happened during these 20 years is not mentioned in the story, but is left open to interpretation, which is again a very interesting way to tell a story, which is why I really like this story. Because my imagination can run wild, there could be plenty of things that happened during this 20-year period. But there's a reason why he couldn't recognize it at first, which will be revealed at the very end of the story. So I can't give away the punchline. So, anyway, they recognize each other and they come over and they sit next to each other and they start catching up. And bit by bit, our protagonist goes back into the past of the 20 years and he starts to tell us the story. So, it turns out our protagonist is a struggling author who released a novel or a story recently. And this woman that he recognizes, she became one of his first fans and she wanted to be taken to a restaurant and given luncheon where she would meet him. And since our protagonist is poor, and since this is France, the currency involved is francs. But he figured that he's got about 40 francs saved up with him. So a decent luncheon, according to him, would have cost approximately 15 to 20 francs. So if he sacrificed his coffee ration for a while, he could perhaps, just do it. But boy, was he in for a shock. This woman names the most expensive and exclusive restaurant in Paris as the place where she wants to meet him. This restaurant is posh, it is expensive, and caters to a very exclusive clientele. So this guy is kind of wondering, do I dare disturb the universe? There I go, quoting T.S. Eliot. But anyway, he realizes that he is not at that age where he can, how do I put this, refuse a lady. And that is something that even I feel awkward about refusing a lady. So he's like, okay, let's be reckless this one time and let's do this. So he goes to the restaurant. I believe it's called Froyarts. So they meet, and he thought she would be a lot younger, and he finds that she's a woman pushing the mid 40s. So he's a little taken aback. And this is where the comedy starts. She sits down, and the waiter brings the menu, the bill of fare as it was called in the story. And he starts scanning the right side of the column where all the prices are written, and he's like, oh shit, this place is way out of my budget. So he sends up a silent prayer to God. He's like, God, get me through this, and I will pray for you and pray to you and conduct human sacrifices to you if I have to. Now, I am using a lot of alliteration over here in an attempt to make this funny. Please don't take my jokes too seriously. But yes, he is literally at that point where he wants to sacrifice something to Odin and all that at seeing just the prices of the dishes. So she's like, you know, I don't really eat too much for luncheon. I'll just have one thing. I wonder if they have the salmon. Okay, so now she wants salmon. First nail in the coffin. So it's not on the bill of fare, which means that it's an exclusive dish, which means that it's going to cost our protagonist more. But he still is feeling chivalrous, so he orders it. And he orders for himself a mutton chop. And immediately this is met with disapproval because, according to our fine lady, it is not a good practice to eat a heavy luncheon. Good. And then comes the question of the drink. So she's like, I don't drink anything at luncheon. And he heaves a sigh of relief. Except she's not done talking. The next thing she says is, except for white wine, and my doctor won't let me touch anything but champagne. Second nail in the coffin. At this point, the human sacrifice is burnt to a crisp, and the second human is being loaded on because he realizes that God is not on his side, God is not in his heaven, and all is not right in the world. He realizes that he's digging himself into a grave, but he is reckless. So he says, okay, let's have at it. I can give you a bottle of champagne. Let's do it. Okay. So the salmon arrives, the champagne arrives, his mutton chop arrives. And once again, the lady registers a disapproval at the fact that she is eating meat. And he refuses to drink anything but water because he just can't afford it. I mean, come on. He's ordering expensive dishes for somebody who's part of the genteel society, so to speak. And she is ordering the most expensive dishes on the menu. And this person just doesn't know what to do. He's tearing his hair out. And so we go on to phase 2. Now in phase 2, she's like, I think I'll have some giant asparagus. And our protagonist is now thinking that the cumulative fecal matter has officially hit the fan because he has seen asparagus in shops, and he knows that asparagus is extremely, extremely expensive, not to mention totally out of his budget. But he feels like Don Quixote, like Don Quixote used to feel when he used to read about those knights errant. And he's like, I don't need food. Let me give her food. And he's like, okay, let's do it. So he orders the asparagus. And she eats the asparagus. And she repeats, I never eat more than one thing at lunch. I don't believe in overeating, but you shouldn't eat so much mutton because it's not good for you, it's not good for the constitution. And now we have had the entree, we have had the main course. So what do we do next? Naturally, we order dessert. And in this case, the dessert is an ice cream and toffee. And our hero is at his wit's end. He's like, I will now have to either wash the dishes, ask my hostess to ask my fail my duties as a hostess. And sorry, I'm getting genders mixed up. I'm tired today. Actually, I'm really sorry. I'm just in the flow of it all. I'm just making stupid mistakes. Please bear with me. So he's like, I'm going to have to break the golden rule of hosting somebody and ask the guest to pay if I run out of money, because I still have just 40 francs, and that's definitely not going to be enough to fit the bill of fare. So then he's like, uh, to hell with this, let's bring out the ice cream. I mean, in for a penny, in for a pound. He doesn't know why he's doing this. He's just doing this. I mean, and at this point, I was also wondering what's going to happen next. So this is a very good storytelling device in my opinion, because it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and at the same time, I hope I'm being comic enough to try to make you understand the satire of the situation. And so the ice cream arrives and she eats it. And then the waiter who's serving them decides that he's going to do something even more drastic, and he brings the peaches. Now, it is not the season for peaches. The peaches will cost extra, but he still brings them because he's a right and left rank pain in the rear, or so our protagonist thinks. And our protagonist is like, okay, that's it. To fill out this bill, I am going to have to leave my watch here as collateral and earn the rest of the money within the next 3 4 hours and come back and pay the bill. Meanwhile, she's again repeating that you're not hungry because you've had meat. And he's ordered the cheapest dish on the bill of fare. And this is actually, how do I put this? I'm looking for the word. This is actually unfair. This is slaughterhouse politics, because it's like one of those memes you see on the internet where 1 second your wallet is full and then the caption reads, "Money, what are you doing? Money, stop." That's exactly what's happening to our protagonist here. He's being destroyed from the inside out, and he's not a man of means. If he was a man of means, it would be something different, but he's not a man of means. So, the final nail in the coffin has landed. The pale rider is about to ride through the portal and bring the apocalypse down on our protagonist. And this woman is like, I have not had anything but a light snack, so now I'm just going to take a peach. And she eats the peach. It is not known whether the protagonist had to, do any unshoddy, unscrupulous work to get his bill settled. But then we are taken back to 20 years later, and 20 years later, the sentence is, I have had my revenge. She now weighs 21 stone. Now, I forgot to Google what 21 stone is in the conversion table, but I will definitely leave the conversion in the description of this video, which is going to go up on YouTube. So just bear with me here. And this is a short story, and there are 4 such short stories uh, collected in volumes. So 4 volumes of short stories. And Somerset Maugham has also written a book called Of Human Bondage, which was one of the greatest books I read in 2020. I legit have not read something that good in a very long time. And I am a member of a reading club on Facebook called uh, the CWTS at Reading Addicts. I'll leave a link to that in the description. If you want, you can join us. We are a very friendly and very competitive family of bookworms. And I would just like to say that Somerset Maugham is a very, very interesting author. He's got very, very original ideas, and he's an out and out entertainer. But he is at the same time sometimes You need to be a little patient with him. Like Of Human Bondage was 740 pages long, but he managed to keep the excitement in. He managed to keep the interest of the reader in. So I was really sucked into it. So I would really recommend that if you wanted to check him out, you should. And I do have another few novels by Mom. One of them is The Moon and Sixpence, which I acquired at the same bookstore. So do check him out. And like I said before, I'm dropping the bomb one more time. Mom considered Guy de Maupassant to be his guru, and Guy de Maupassant is a god. He is literally the best short story writer I have ever read. So I will have to figure out which Maupassant to tell you. I have the complete collection of Maupassant's short stories. I'll try to tell you an interesting one. There's no shortage of that. Maybe I'll tell you a ghost story that he's written. I don't recall the name, but he's coming. He's definitely coming. Consider this to be a teaser. And I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope that I was able to deliver it with enough comic relief. Believe me, I was laughing my head off when I first read it. And 2021 is here, and to start it off, I thought I'd tell something funny. I will be announcing the next story on Saturday, and I just want to apologize for one thing. I told some people that I would be posting this in the morning, but then I got tied up with some work. So, to those people, my sincere apologies that this is late. I will try not to make the next story so late. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. This is the Bilge Master signing off until next Sunday when episode 4 will air. Take care of yourselves.